Hey there. So today I want to talk about a subject that I find interesting, and that is community over industry when we're talking about comic books. You know, the laying aside of meritocracy so the comic book professional can chase the one kind of clap they all want heaped upon them. I'm talking about this, by the way, not anything else, you dirty, dirty wrong thinkers. Now, I really started thinking about this a few months back when I saw this word popping up over and over and over again, community. When I saw that, I thought, yeah, community versus industry, the lack of meritocracy. Of course, if you have everybody there in this niche field where they look at everybody as friends and everybody polices out the heretical, well, of course, you're not going to get the challenges that you need to continue a better product. You're not going to have people that fear for their jobs in all the right ways. No, you're going to have outside influencers come in and maybe make people fear for their jobs, or you're going to have people that truly don't build in merit make other people fear for their jobs. But the evolution of product, that's not going to be the thing on the forefront. So what I want to do is I want to focus on this statement here because I really like this one. This is from April, and a lot of people actually didn't see this. Pierre Guerrera, if you wonder who this person is, think Why the Last Man, and think, hey, the main person on there, yeah, this isn't that person. This is another person on there. This person too, if you don't know them for anything else, maybe if you do, you're probably better than I am because I can't think of anything else right off the bat. But this person, they love to heap wording out there talking about that small community. And you know what? People listen because of course they do. I also want to showcase an example of Donald DeLay being kept out of industry where you have two representatives of the industry and one outside influencer talking about blacklisting the guy in public because they don't even hide it anymore. That's the worst thing about it. They don't even try to hide it. Then I'm going to showcase what happens when you put those wrong thinkers in their place. The standing ovation, because the crowd, of course, at least within this small professional endeavor, they lap it up. Of course, to the detriment of consumers, because consumers, they get tired of it and they just walk away. Sometimes loudly, but they still walk away. So anyhow, let's begin here. Okay, this needs to be said. The comic industry is unlike any other art-related industry out there. It's not like book publishing, fashion, advertising, doesn't have those solid walls separating management, artists, and consumers. The comic industry is small. You see the niche commentary there, and as a result has become a very tight-knit community. So you're talking about this thing again that allows gatekeeping here. We all know everyone by a couple of degrees. Cronyism. Enjoy that. We talk to each other, share creating tips, help deadlines, give advice, suggest contacts, mentor. We warn each other about the bad apple here. So you see, when you see the bad apple comment, well, you're creating the outlier, which will be discussed a little more within this. But continuing, the reason is because so much rides on our ability to produce quality work on a deadline, to be reliable, be easy to work with. If you're an asshole in this line of work, it won't take long for every one of us to hear about it. Every one of us. Again, creation of the in crowd versus the outlier, keeping people in line. But continuing, there are going to be times when you're stuck, like in a bad way, and having friends will get you through that. It's why I will walk through fire to help those who help me when I need it, and why I will avoid those who made things harder like the damn plague. But the height of it all, that some of these assholes are aspiring creators themselves. Good God, you haven't just shot yourself in the foot. You've taken out your legs with a rocket launcher. Now, this kind of thing is a very interesting statement, too. Not only because they're telling you that you're out, because, you're an aspiring creator out there, and we're not going to allow you in, but the determination of who is an asshole. I find that to be fascinating, too. Continuing here, do you think for 1 second that any editor will want to work with someone that toxic? Is there some part of you that thinks we don't all see you for what you are? A massive problem child, not worth the hassle. We don't see you. You see this statement here again versus the you here, the creation of the outlier. Come on, son. I like the gendered comment there as well. But continuing here, and not just editors, writers, artists, colorists, letters, cover artists, the team you want to be part of wants no part of your hateful shit because they all know these women, people of color, trans creators you're slagging. So of course you get the buzzwords, you get the pomp and pageantry that allow this kind of behavior. That's one of the ugliest things too. You have this kind of thing weaponized. You have racism weaponized. You have classism weaponized and on. Anything that fits within the folds. They'll throw out everything from fansplaining, and the customer, they're not always right because saying that, well, that's the capitalistic version of might makes right. They literally said that, by the way. But continuing here, they've all had dinner with those editors you think of as fake geek girls. They've all had their necks saved by those you want to blame for your lack of work on. So you can see this here too. Even more proof of cronyism there. It's not them, asshole. It's you. You're alone because you suck as a person. Just a final note. A lot of us lived through the 90s implosion. We saw how bad it could get, and we know it wasn't diversity that made that happen. And we know how important it is to support each other and expand our audiences, not niche up. And yet they talk about it here. They don't need to niche up. And yet, when you go through the statement, and when we roll back to the top, look at some of the wording here. The industry is small, very tight-knit community. They know each other by a few separation with degree of separations there. When you see this kind of stuff, they say they don't want to niche up. And yet there. But continuing back here, we had to crawl out of a very dark pit to understand what was turning people away, what was keeping people from trying comics in the last decade. And we figured out how to implement new strategies that are now working. Yeah, going out and creating the diminishing return, creating the product that doesn't sell. And again, the rise of the unpro that talks about people this way. Oh yeah, working out very, very well. And then of course, here, the inclusion, representation, fresh new ideas. That's not SJW agenda, smart business. Yeah, until you stand up on the pulpit and, of course, you create niche products. I just went through X-Men with Magneto in it. X-Men Black, I believe it was. Magneto, #1. Yeah, that thing was a social pulpit. It talked about a talking point that was just uber political. It drew a line in the proverbial sand that will fail. It will end up failing. But of course they think of smart business. If your solution is to go back to the old days, gimmicks and staid rehashes, then be my guest. Hop right back into that pit. You belong there. Staid rehashes. We're talking about the continual reboot. We're talking about gimmicks here, like milestones and 20 to 40 covers. Oh yeah, it's other people out there that are relying on gimmickry, right? Because when you look at the actual industry and you see the rising pricing point, we just hit a brand new high ever. We have a $4.13 average for the top 300. That's the largest ever. But yeah, of course, it's other people relying on gimmicks. Now, from that, as we talked about community, we talked about that small thing that likes to go out and police and create in-group and outlier. Here's the perfect example of that. This is Donald DeLay being talked about here. Donald DeLay committed the sin of saying, hey, that diversity and comics guy, he's probably not a white supremacist. Having kids that are diverse and talking about certain things, and also having a crowd by which, you can actually see that there is quote-unquote diversity out there, not only of thought and idea, which most people consider diverse, but no, even meets the qualifiers these folks have out there. For him saying this kind of stuff out there, you have two people that are representative of the comic book industry, plus an outside influencer, getting together and discussing in public the blacklisting of somebody. Can you believe that? You have Tess Fowler, somebody that represents IDW and other brands, and Tam Bonvillain, who's represented everything from Marvel, you have Dark Horse, you have DC Comics. This kind of bad behavior on display, it just keeps going. If comic pros defend hate campaigns, they're already gone too far. Save your energy for other fights. You can't save them. Hold your ground. Let them go. Sometimes you have discussions not for the person you're talking to, but for the people looking on. Give them a shovel, let them dig, see how far down they go, and make it harder for them to deny. I was actually trying. Silly me, I should have known better. I think we can all also make good faith attempts to reach people that are colleagues and peers and try to clear things up. If they clarify their position is what we thought, okay, done with them. That was the case tonight. This is again about Donald DeLay with it. I think you both give the enemy too much credit. The enemy too much credit. If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, shut the door on it and let folks know not to open it again. Wash your hands of it. The evidence is here. People don't care at all. My problem is I got a couple of them, kids mostly, to totally come around and realize what's going on. Now I think I can do that to others. By all means, save who you can. Save them. Again, creating the out group versus creating that in group. When you see it prominently on display here. And, what's bad about it is these people, they don't even think they have to hide it because really, they don't. The industry allows this to continue to manifest to the detriment of profitability. Another well-known example of that is, of course, Alterna. If you look at what transpired with them, they essentially thanked people for buying comic books. You can see somebody out there decide that they're going to put them on trial, to put them on blast because they bring that up. And right away, of course, because you think the wrong people, you have people that are on comic books that start turning on it again because they thanked a customer. And after they decided to say, hey, we're going to continue to thank people, and within that, we're also going to have a social media policy that says that block botting, that doesn't work. You can block individually, but not block indiscriminately. Well, they got stuff like this. They had their logo changed up by people like Sandwich Boy here, turning them into alt-right comics, while the guy's out there begging other people for spare change. And also you have people like Mark Wade going in and attacking them because, of course, this is allowed within industry. You create the in-group and you create the outlier. And they did their best to drive a man to suicide while they tried to dismantle his company for, again, having professional standards. Can you imagine that? They tried to label a guy that is half Asian as part of the alt-right. They tried to call him a white supremacist and on because he decided that he would bring a good product. He's had multiple books turn on him within that as well, as people try to, of course, get their comeuppance. And when you see the in crowd there, they show you a very detestable reality of what these people try to accomplish. Now, one of my favorite examples to show the hypocrisy of these people, not because of what they did, but rather because it puts them on display, is the way that they treated the Breitweisers. Why? Because Mitch Breitweiser had the audacity to draw a picture. Now, you can see him talking about here Tim Doyle, same guy working as an influencer, and Steve Horton, a guy that is, again, worked with another company out there. They're talking about EVS, whom we know that they tried to lambast for 2 years, trying to tie him into things like Charlottesville. We see them talking about the Breitweisers here because, oh my God, they shared a picture that was from a book with Jordan Peterson. They talk about him as the Milo-loving darling of the alt-right Jordan Peterson. If you need more evidence that EVS is a disgusting trash fire of a human being, well, look at this stuff. But if you notice the pictures he put together, yeah, because, of course, they're putting him on trial. Now, when these people further talk about, Mitch Breitweiser and going on, they get to this one point that I find really telling within conversation, wherein they decide they will talk about Elizabeth Breitweiser. Now, within this, you see these comments here. Again, they're talking about Jordan Peterson, but going forward, look at these kind of statements. They're not well. They're always straight white men. Well, we know at least they hit the white male part, who think they're victims of feminism and diversity, with no knowledge of what others suffer through. Low-level sociopaths. True, plus at least one white woman in comics that I know of. Internalized misogyny. misogyny, my friend. Talking about Elizabeth Breitweiser. Where is the outrage to something like this? You know, we hear about that community out there that, of course, protects its own. Well, where's the outrage when Ethan Van Sciver is targeted, or where Elizabeth Breitweiser is out here being talked about by a guy that looks like he's an extra from a Texas Chainsaw spinoff, and a guy that is more well known for a mankini and chicken bones than anything that he's ever accomplished? Now, on the other side of that, of course, are the denouncers. I mean, you get the people that are on the right side of history. You had Scott Schneider come out and, of course, denounce not only Comicsgate, but not stick up for just a girl here, the person holding up this list, when they say, hey, I'm disappointed here. I own original artwork. And you have a creator go out and basically fake geek girl her. You know, you don't have anybody stand up. And of course, when they do this kind of stuff, yeah, in come the applause. You know, it is kind of weird. You could be on the side that thinks good comics include Neil Gaiman, Scott Schneider, Bill here, and tons of more giants, or you can listen to the guy who writes the worst comics ever made. Tough call. Yeah, you see exactly how gatekeeping is made manifest, because those pesky comic consumers out there, you cannot listen to them, because if you start listening to them, maybe Gail might actually have to answer how she can go within 4 issues and have a comic go from 90,000 units to 23 or 21,000, or how basically Plastic Man, it can barely serve up over 20. I mean, when you look at those numbers, there's some hard questions out there, but of course we're not answering those. I mean, we see examples of this stuff all the time too. Look at Phil Jimenez out there saying, you know, for the variety of reasons, I've not been particularly engaged in Comicsgate discussion in the past year, but I want to applaud my friends who have been fighting the good fight against those bigots and bullies, because they're hashtag heroes. And of course, he's got to have a little bit of that back pat too, just 5 days later. You know who's a great writer and an astonishing artist and a friend I'm honored to know? Of course, that guy who just 5 days ago stepped out there. Then we get the giant circle jerk, of course, because small community. You have that person saying, you know, I honestly wish I had half the courage or wit you have, Gail. I feel you learned so much more from our 4-color heroes than I did. You're really a wonder and a divine human being. Man, you know, turn that down just a little bit. And of course, Tom Taylor, you know, the beautiful, beautiful person he is, he's got to come in there and be like, truth, man, that is so brave and so stunning. Bravo, bravo. Again, giving you the clap you all desire. Isn't that amazing? I mean, when you look at this made manifest, you can see exactly how this industry is running and why you see it reliant on gimmicks and reliant on reboots and reliant on things that will ultimately kill local comic shops. But these people, they don't care. They've never been made to care. Some of them are pretty much above being touched now. I mean, if you look at people like Tom Taylor, they can go out and create garbage, unmarketable garbage, sell around 40,000 units with X-Men and be applauded for that. I mean, can you imagine? But that's the state of this industry. We could give many other examples of this kind of stuff too, but I'm going to stop here. I mean, these people, they pretty much get on my nerves, and really, this kind of game, it's something that needs to be pointed out. It has to be pointed out because people, they need to see how these kind of people act or interact anytime they want to go out and they want to create community and what they do to keep any kind of wrong thing away from it. But anyhow, give me your thoughts on this kind of stuff. I mean, when you see this, what does this make you think of? Are you actually supporting this industry still? You know, we talk about the reasons to walk away. Well, I'm not finding many to stay. Actually, I've walked away for a while now. I've taken a lot of money. I've moved away from it, and I could find anything better to do. Hell, maybe maybe these days it would be better to go out and set my money on fire in the yard rather than mess with these folks. But anyhow, you tell me what you think. Also, if you check in the description, there are a few links if you want to support the channel. I decided to take people's advice. I tried out a couple of shirts there in the description, and also there's a coffee mug out there, and people might find that stuff fun. But, these channels are pretty much de-incentivized out there, so really if you want to support, you can. Also, like and subscribe. We just passed 9,600. At 10,000, we will have some kind of fun giveaway. Man, that's exciting to say there. But I do want your comments. I want to see exactly what you think about this stuff. And thank you, of course, as always, for your time.